There's a moment we recognize before anything actually breaks. Not a crisis. Just a pause where something familiar stops responding the way it always has. That's where this one begins. Tamsin Hale works in corporate operations, the kind of job that teaches you to trust systems more than people. What happened to her matters because the system didn't fail first. The story around her did. This is where she takes over. I was standing in my kitchen with my laptop open and my phone in my hand, waiting for the app to load like it always did. No error tone, no warning. Just a clean line across the screen telling me my account was temporarily restricted and to contact my banker. I refreshed once. Then again. The coffee maker clicked off behind me. I remember that because I didn't turn around. I just stared, like the screen might explain itself if I stayed quiet long enough. My phone rang. Cole's voice was steady, almost apologetic. Tamsin, I wanted to reach you before anything moved. We received documents overnight requesting a change in authority on your trust. I leaned against the counter. What kind of change? A power of attorney. There were inconsistencies. We placed everything under review. Under review landed heavier than locked. Locked is final. Review means someone is deciding who you are. I asked who sent it. He didn't answer right away. Then, your parents. That was the moment we noticed the shift. Not because of the money, but because she didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't ask how they could do that. I just said, nothing goes through, right? Nothing. He confirmed. I hung up and called my father. Don't make this harder than it needs to be, he said, calm as if we were discussing a delayed flight. My mother joined the call. We're handling something for you. I looked back at the screen. Temporary, restricted, review. If you've ever trusted people to speak for you, you already know how this part feels. The phone stayed warm in my hand after I hung up with Cole. I didn't sit down. I just stood there, watching the screen like it might change its mind. My dad picked up on the second ring. You don't need to rush to the bank, he said, already ahead of me. We're handling it. I didn't ask you to. A pause. Not confusion. Calculation. My mom came on the line without asking. You've been stretched thin lately. This takes the pressure off. I'm fine. That's not what we're saying, she replied, voice calm. Practiced. We're saying you don't need to carry this alone. In the background, I heard a chair scrape. My sister, Darcy. Close enough to listen. It's temporary, she added. You always let us manage the hard parts. I looked at the sink, a spoon still resting where I'd dropped it earlier. I hadn't noticed doing that. What exactly are you managing? I asked. My dad exhaled, like this was tiring him. Paperwork, safeguards, family stuff. Family first. My mom said softly, like it was a rule we'd all agreed to. I didn't argue. I didn't explain. I just told them nothing moves without me present. That's not necessary. My dad replied. I ended the call before anyone could say more. The bank smelled like carpet cleaner and coffee that had been sitting too long. Cole met me near the private offices and handed me a paper cup without asking. It was already cooling. Thanks for coming in, he said, walking ahead of me. I wanted you to see this in person. The office door clicked shut behind us. He turned the monitor so we could both look at it. There's a primary transfer queued, he said. Same-day settlement. $812,000. The number sat there, plain and careful, like it didn't know what it meant. My jaw tightened. That's almost everything. He nodded once, then clicked again. There were 2 smaller transfers yesterday. Cleared. He paused, then read them off. 7,500, 12,400. My fingers curled around the paper cup. The lid was loose. Coffee sloshed near the edge. Where did they go? He pulled up another screen. A newly opened account. Hale Family Operating Account. The name felt deliberate, not flashy, not urgent. Something you could defend. I didn't open that. I said, I know. He didn't rush it. That's why nothing else has moved. I stared at the screen, then away. A framed photo on the shelf. A kid in a soccer uniform. Someone else's normal. If this clears, I said quietly, it's gone. That's why it's pending, he replied, and why I asked you to come. I took a breath and set the cup down before my hand shook enough to spill it. Janine walked in without knocking, a tablet tucked under her arm. Cole stood when she entered. I stayed seated. She glanced at the screen once, then at me. I'm Janine. I manage this branch. Her voice was even, not warm, not cold. I wanted to talk through what was submitted. She took the chair across from me and set the tablet down. Careful. Like placement mattered. The request came with a power of attorney. She continued, and a physician's letter. My shoulders tightened. About what? She didn't soften it. About capacity. The word landed wrong, not sharp, heavy. Cole shifted in his seat. Janine kept going. The letter states you were experiencing emotional instability and were unavailable to manage financial decisions. It recommended immediate family step in. I stared at the edge of the desk. A small nick in the wood. Someone had dragged something sharp across it a long time ago. That's not true, I said. I understand, Janine replied. Right now, we're not making a judgment. We're reviewing the narrative. Narrative. Not facts. Not signatures. A story. She turned the tablet so I could see. Dates. Attachments. Language highlighted in pale gray. Phrases about urgency. About protection. They were very specific, she added. About timing. About risk. Risk to who? I asked. Janine didn't answer directly. They emphasized that you might resist. That speed mattered. I leaned back, the chair creaking under me. My chest felt tight, not panicked, focused. So they told you who I was, I said. Before you ever spoke to me. Yes, she said. They did. Silence settled in the room, not awkward, intentional. Janine closed the tablet. That's why nothing has moved, she said, and why we're handling this carefully. I nodded once. My hands were steady now. They asked me to wait while they verified the medical letter, not outside, just there. Janine stepped out first. Cole stayed, scrolling through something he didn't need to explain. A few minutes later, he looked up. We're sending this to Trust Compliance, he said. Independent review. I nodded. My leg bounced under the table. I made it stop. Janine came back in with her phone in her hand. I'm putting him on speaker, she said. No build-up. A voice filled the room. Calm, clipped. This is Paul. Janine slid the phone closer to the center of the desk. We're reviewing a capacity letter attached to a pending power of attorney. The beneficiary is present and disputing it. Understood, Paul replied. I'm looking at the submission path now. Cole leaned forward. We flagged the upload source. There was a pause. Keys tapping somewhere I couldn't see. The document wasn't submitted through a medical portal. Paul said, it came through a standard upload link. Janine glanced at me. What does that tell you? It tells me where to look next. Another pause. The upload originated from an address that accessed a personal email account shortly before submission. My throat tightened. Whose? Paul didn't hesitate. An account listed as a recovery contact on your profile several years ago. Darcy. I closed my eyes for a second. Not anger. Just the weight of recognition. That doesn't make the letter invalid on its own. Paul continued. But it raises enough concern to suspend authority changes until verification is complete. Janine nodded. So nothing moves? Nothing. Paul confirmed. All requests are frozen. The call ended. The room felt quieter without the voice on the line. Cole cleared his throat. This doesn't mean intent, he said carefully. It means we slow everything down. I stared at the desk again. The nick in the wood. Same place as before. Slow was fine. Slow meant I was still here. Cole waited until Janine stepped out before speaking again. He didn't rush it, just leaned back in his chair and let the silence do its work. "There's something else," he said. "It explains the timing." I looked up. My hands were folded tight in my lap. I hadn't noticed doing that. "The two smaller transfers," he continued. "They didn't just land in a checking account." He turned the screen toward me again. New tabs. Fewer colors. They were routed through a brokerage platform. Same name on the account. Your father. My chest tightened. Not shock. Something colder. Cole lowered his voice. "That account is under pressure. A private position. Leveraged." Janine came back in quietly. Stood near the door. "There's a margin call," she added. "If it isn't covered, the loss becomes visible. Quickly." I leaned back and stared at the ceiling. Fluorescent panel. One corner slightly dimmer than the rest. "So this wasn't about me," I said. No one contradicted that. Cole nodded once. "The structure makes sense now. The test transfers. The urgency. The language about speed." Janine crossed her arms. "It's not uncommon. When people feel cornered, they reach for what they think they still control." I pictured my father at his desk, phone pressed to his ear, telling someone everything was handled. My mother beside him, smoothing the edges, choosing words. Darcy's voice floated back to me. "Temporary. You always let us manage the hard parts." I exhaled slowly. They weren't protecting me. Janine met my eyes. They were protecting the story they needed to keep intact. The room settled again. Not calm. Steady. Whatever came next, at least I understood the shape of it now. A uniform showed up before anyone announced it. I noticed the shoes first, scuffed at the toes, then the quiet way the door closed behind him. Officer Brooks introduced himself and asked where he should sit. Janine gestured to the chair near the wall, a little away from the desk. Space mattered now. "I'm not here because anyone's in trouble," he said. "I'm here to document what's already been flagged." That word again. Document. He asked me to confirm my name and whether I'd authorized a power of attorney in the last few days. My answer came out steady. "No." He nodded and wrote it down. Slow. Deliberate. Janine slid a printed page across the desk. "This is the activity log. Pending transfers. Review status." He looked it over without comment. His radio crackled once. He turned it down and listened, then spoke quietly into it. A few seconds later, he looked back at me. "Your parents requested a welfare check earlier today," he said. No edge in his voice. Just information. "We confirmed you're here voluntarily and alert." The request was closed. I felt something loosen in my chest. Not relief. Clearance. He made another note. "False reporting is documented." Cole shifted in his seat. No one spoke for a moment. Officer Brooks stood and adjusted his belt. "If anyone contacts you again about this, keep the messages. Don't engage." Janine nodded. "We'll handle communication from here." The door clicked shut behind him. The room stayed quiet, but it was a different quiet now. Solid, recorded. They asked if I wanted to be present. I said no. I sat in the same chair and watched the door instead. Darcy came in a few minutes later with Janine. Her shoulders were tight, like she'd been holding them there on purpose. She didn't look at me at first. Then she did. Quick, like touching a hot surface. Janine kept it simple. "We're just clarifying timing and access." Darcy nodded too fast. "Okay." They asked about the upload, about the recovery email, about when she'd last logged in. The questions weren't sharp. That was the worst part. There was room to talk, to trip. Darcy rubbed her thumb along the seam of her sleeve. "I was helping," she said. "That's all." Cole leaned forward a little. "Helping with what?" She swallowed. "With getting things organized." Janine waited. Silence again. It stretched. Darcy's eyes flicked to the floor. "I didn't think it would go this far," she said. The words landed and stayed there. No one rushed to fill the space. Janine let it sit. Cole didn't move. Darcy looked up at me then. Not defensive. Smaller. Dad said it was temporary. She added that it would be fixed once things settled. Janine closed her notebook. Thank you, she said. That's enough for now. Darcy stood, hesitated, then left without another word. Janine turned to me. Trust compliance is formalizing the hold, she said. Authority changes are suspended. I nodded. My hands were still steady. Cole glanced at the door Darcy had gone through. This is where the system takes over. I watched the handle settle back into place. Quiet. Final. The paperwork took longer than the conversation. That part surprised me, not because it was complicated, but because no one argued. Janine slid the final document across the desk. Independent trustee. Court oversight for any future authority changes. She paused. No family access. That's what I want. I replied. Cole nodded and typed. Careful. Exact. The room felt lighter without urgency in it. Just keys clicking, air moving through the vent. When I stood to leave, my phone buzzed. One missed call from my mother. No message. I turned the screen face down and didn't feel the need to explain myself to it. At home, I opened the app again. The same account, the same balance. $835,400. Under the status line. Something new appeared, independently administered. I sat on the edge of the couch and let that sit with me. Not relief, not triumph. Space. Later. Darcy sent a text, just 3 words. I didn't reply. Not because I was angry, because I didn't owe the moment a response. That night, I slept without my phone on the nightstand. It stayed in the kitchen, quiet where it belonged. What changed wasn't the money. It was the way my name finally stayed attached to my life. Tamsin Hale. Not a role, not a liability. Just me. If this story stays with you, hold on to the part where the system slowed down and someone chose themselves. That pause matters.